Hello everyone, welcome back to another art time lapse. Today the piece that I am doing is called Glistening. Summer is upon me here at this time and I just want to do something slightly refreshing but still have like a magical whimsical vibe. So I thought I'll do maybe like a fun piece for the summer, nothing like high pressure, high stakes where I'm thinking of like a commission of some sort. And I want to do something that is nature and water because I think that when I'm painting, water is very forgiving. Like no one's gonna tell you that wave doesn't look right compared to, let's say, like a portrait of someone where it's like very obvious that like that is not how the person looks like. And I think that drawing nature in terms of like clouds and waves is just like very freeing. Like there's not a lot of pressure that you have to draw the cloud particularly in that way, exactly like the picture. I don't know if anyone also likes doing that as well, like drawing pieces where it's not high stake and just doing it for the fun of it. Lately I've been finding a lot of my pieces I feel pressure that I have to produce in terms of quantity and also like content that people like. So sometimes I just have to dial it back and think about like, okay, why am I painting and like who am I painting it for and like why am I doing what I'm doing. So this is one of those pieces. So I'm really taking my time, not sure how it's gonna go, but hopefully it'll go in the right direction. So I really like the color blue. Like it's not my favorite color in the world, but my kids are obsessed with the color blue and they really like it. So I thought I'll do a piece with a blue sky. I'm gonna have some clouds in there and also the water, like the ocean maybe on the river glistening just before maybe the sun rising or when sunset. That twilight zone in between, I thought that would be really nice to do. I'm using acrylic gouache from Holbein. It is a medium that is kind of like when acrylics and watercolor have a baby. Love how hyperpigmented it is. And as I'm doing this, I'm just enjoying some audiobook, so it's pretty relaxing and very chill. Here you can see I am layering on some glows of warmer color to show that the sun is just like setting. And then for clouds, one tip I would say is like always start from the back to the front and then slowly layer on colors on top. And I do the same for mountains. Start with the back mountains first, the ones in the very back that are a little bit more faded, and then as they come closer into view you can see more definition and more like details. For my gouache paintings, I don't like to do a lot of outlines. I usually just use my gouache watered down to start with drawing where everything will be, and then slowly decreasing the amount of water proportion so that the colors become a little bit more pigmented and is floating out of the painting. Here you can see the night sky, the mountain silhouette, and the water just reflecting on the bottom here. A painting is always really daunting when you first start on it. You don't know where to go. I feel like the middle section you get really excited because you know where you're going, you have a clear idea, you just have to keep going. And then near the end it's just like trying to figure out what's a happy medium and where finding like a good place to stop. So I did this painting in one sitting or two separate sittings over the weekend, and it was like a smaller piece than I usually do. So this is like a 5" by 7" water block from Stonehenge. I found these little pieces are really great for me to just like warm up and like be more adventurous in my coloring skills. And I really implore you that like if you feel like you are in a artist block, try painting something different, go for a walk outside, try drawing like painting smaller pieces. I think that's really good. There's less pressure and like you don't need as much time to focus on one piece. I find that I get bored of a piece sometimes, especially larger pieces, after like a few sittings. So I really like painting smaller pieces when I have the time. So this piece, as I mentioned, I want it to be like exudes magical, like twilight, where like possibilities are limited. Like that's the idea that I'm hoping to get from this piece. So I want there to be like sparkles and light that will glisten and float from the water. And I'm gonna do a little girl who's standing right in the middle of the river, just experiencing it all. Here I'm using a super fine brush to add on the little dots, like the way the water reflects, and there'd be like these circle blurs that you would see. Later on, I'm gonna zoom in so you can have a better look at how the painting looks up front, because I think in this view it might be hard to see. But I'm also using this white gouache to add a little bit of highlight behind the mountains so they stand out a little bit more. I always like to have a character that the piece will focus on, and I always have the rule of 2/3 where like it should be placed somewhere on, like if the page is divided into threes, it should stand on like one of the lines that runs through it. It shouldn't be exactly centered. At least I figure if they do that for photography, it should apply to artwork as well. Makes the painting a bit more interesting, have a focal point. I think looking back at this piece, ways that I can improve it is just like make the darks a little bit darker. That's one thing about acrylic gouache that you will notice over time. The light colors dry a little bit darker and the dark colors dry a little bit lighter. And it's not until like it fully dries that you have a good idea of how the colors are going to look like. So that could be an advantage to acrylic gouache if you're asking me about it. Here I'm speeding things up. I'm adding in like some oranges, mixing it apricots, so the colors are not as sharp looking. I just think that there's just a lot of blues and greens in this piece, and I want to glisten a little bit more. Looking closely, you can see how like the colors are playing with each other, and now I'm just adding in shadows for the girl's legs, because I do find that she needs to stand out a little bit, but like details are also so important in a painting. Here I have her playing around with like the glistening sparkles, the magic that is surrounding her during this time of the day. I always find that time of the day when the sun is just about to set or when the sun is just about to rise and you're by yourself to be like a magical moment in the day. Especially when I'm by myself, I feel like it's really calming. And that's the type of emotion I hope to convey in this piece as you're watching it yourself, as well as like when you see the final piece when I'm done momentarily. But I'm almost done here. As you can see, I wanted to add more darks in certain areas, and for here I decided to add a fish that is like just out of water peeking at what the girl is doing out of curiosity. In this painting I almost wonder, is the girl looking at the spark that is sitting in her arms or in her hands, or is she looking at beyond her hands this fish that has just come and peeked out from the water to see what she's doing? All in all, I think this piece would be nice if it was larger, but I don't know if I would have the same momentum if I were to do a larger piece. I feel like it was really nice to kind of wrap it up over a weekend. I know over time I'll probably have less and less time to paint, given my kids are getting a little bit older and there's just less nap time. So that's less me time for painting. So every minute at this point really counts. Whatever time I have to paint, I try my best to treasure and just really appreciate it. So here is the final piece called Glistening. I hope you enjoyed this art time lapse and enjoy the dialogue as I walk through this piece, and hopefully you can feel the magic too, that I'm trying to convey this magic calming effect in that special time of the day. Well, that's it for now. Thank you so much for joining me on this art time lapse, and I'll see you next time. Take care and stay creative, everyone. Bye for now.